Yeah, I think that when you're wanting to be an attraction agent and you're starting out from scratch, you've got to find those opportunities that, one, you're comfortable in doing yourself, going and listening to podcasts of, say, if it's a salesperson or a BDM or someone out there that's grown their own business and just doing what they're doing because it works for them doesn't necessarily mean it will work for you and your personality. So being really comfortable with that approach. I've had no hesitation in going up and telling people what I do and talking with other business owners and spreading the word about things that I'm passionate about being active agents. And certainly that the same model when I was working with YB Prestige Properties as a full-time BDM as well. For me, that face-to-face is really easy to do and I think important in an attraction agent role as well. So it's finding where your comfort levels are there, but also making sure that you have, if it's yourself as an individual, that you're doing really well at what you do. So you have that backup support of people talking about you. It's, as we know, it's not who you know, it's who knows you that is the most important thing out there. So in the earlier days, really establishing that rapport. And I feel that even during my time as a full-time BDM, and then when I started active agents as a principal and with no properties and having to accumulate those properties to pay all the bills, the fundamentals of what I did were very similar.
Welcome back to the Property Management Podcast. Thank you so much for being here. Today, we're talking about something that I think every property manager, BDM, and agency owner has felt at some point in their career. The constant pressure to chase business, chasing leads, chasing landlords, chasing referrals, chasing growth. And while there's absolutely a place for proactive business development, the agents and businesses that really dominate their market eventually shift from chasing business to attracting it. They become the person landlords already trust, the one people recommend, and the one whose names come up in conversations when someone says, "Who should manage my investment property?" And that's what we're diving into today, how to become an attraction agent. Someone who builds reputation, visibility, and trust in their market so opportunities start coming to them. And my guest today is someone who lives and breathes this approach. Tara Bradbury is the Director of Active Agents in Hervey Bay, and she's been part of the real estate industry since 2002. She's super passionate about property management, rent roll growth, mentoring, and building a workplace where people genuinely love coming to work. Tara describes herself as a driver, someone who drives ideas, structure, change, goals, and growth. And she's known for her energy, her direct approach, and her ability to build strong relationships in both her team and community. She's also incredibly passionate about helping others in our industry grow and succeed. So today we're unpacking what it really takes to become an attraction agent, from building reputation and personal brand through to mindset, visibility, and leadership. Because the truth is, the agents who win long-term aren't always the ones who hustle the hardest. They're the ones who become the obvious choice. So let's dive on in to my conversation with the amazing Tara. Tara, thank you so much for joining me on the Property Management Podcast. We've had a few attempts to get here, but we are finally here, and I'm so excited to have a conversation with you. I have respected you and followed you for a very long time. But before we dive into unpacking all of that, tell our audience a little bit about yourself and how you got started in the industry.
Yeah, what a year 2026 is kicked off to be, Kylie. I'm sure other agents that are listening to this online would agree that the energy from January has flowed into February. Yeah, we've got it together now and we've got this happening today. So for those, I guess, who are unaware of who I am or haven't heard of me before, I've been in the property management industry since 2002. So straight out of high school, went into the property management space, always remained across the industry, but within different areas of starting reception, becoming a property manager, going into BDM, rent roll growth, spent a full 6 years in the training space as well, and now have active agents, which I started in April 2019. So it'll be 7 years in a couple of months, which is very exciting, and enjoying the Beautiful life in Hervey Bay with my two amazing daughters and husband, and just going day by day, as many of us do. Those that are parents listening as well know that running a business and being a parent's a lot of fun.
It is. It's also a lot of work as well, especially running a property management business. And you've obviously started it from scratch as well. But you are from Hervey Bay of the Fraser Coast originally?
Yes, that's right. Yeah, so I grew up in Maryborough, which is only half an hour from Hervey Bay, so very close. And then the business that I worked in, Prestige Properties, before I started the BDM Academy, that business model was across Hervey Bay and Maryborough. So the business was originally established in Maryborough, and then we saw opportunity in Hervey Bay, and both Jay, the principal, and I enjoyed living in Hervey Bay. I'd moved to Hervey Bay at that time. So, we'll just get some rentals here too, and let's make it happen here as well. And then now starting active agents. So I've kept it hyper local here. So Maryborough and Hervey Bay encompasses the Fraser Coast. For those that are locals would know that. But yeah, Hervey Bay is where my home is.
I have been up to Hervey Bay. I think I had a period of about 11 years, 12 years, where we went up every year for the Touch Carnival that Hervey Bay used to host. It's stopped now. It has, yeah. I've spent a lot of time in Hervey Bay, and it's a beautiful, lovely, laid back place. So talk to us then. And when we talk about attraction agents, is what we're talking about today. What does that actually mean to you?
Yeah, I think that when you're wanting to be an attraction agent and you're starting out from scratch, you've got to find those opportunities that, one, you're comfortable in doing yourself, going and listening to podcasts of, say, if it's a salesperson or a BDM or someone out there that's grown their own business, and just doing what they're doing because it works for them doesn't necessarily mean it will work for you and your personality. So being really comfortable with that approach. I've had no hesitation in going up and telling people what I do and talking with other business owners and spreading the word about things that I'm passionate about, being active agents. And certainly that the same model when I was working with YB Prestige Properties as a full-time BDM as well. For me, that face-to-face is really easy to do, and I think important in an attraction agent role as well. So it's finding where your comfort levels are there, but also making sure that you have, if it's yourself as an individual, that you're doing really well at what you do. So you have that backup support of people talking about you. It's, as we know, it's not who you know, it's who knows you that is the most important thing out there. So in the earlier days, really establishing that rapport. And I feel that even during my time as a full-time BDM, and then when I started active agents as a principal and with no properties and having to accumulate those properties to pay all the bills, the fundamentals of what I did were very similar. And it was mainly about me making sure I was out there sharing the story of the business, that one I was working for and then one that I started.
And do you think a lot of agencies are still in that chasing model, not the attraction model?
Look, I do think so. And I don't always necessarily think it's just down to chasing properties. It's also sometimes down to chasing staff and chasing their tails if they don't have their systems and processes in place. So 100% agree. There's a lot of chasing that goes on out there for some of the agencies. And if you're hearing that and thinking, oh gosh, I never thought about it that way, or maybe I do need to think about my business model, it is something that I believe has to be continuously reviewed on a monthly basis, whether it's the processes that you have within your property management team of how handovers are happening, or the lead generation of where those opportunities are coming from. You need to constantly look at that, because I've found, specifically with my active agents journey, across the starting 6 years, coming up to the 7th year now, each year my lead generation opportunities have changed. They've not always just been that same one contact and that's the person I'm spending my whole time with. It's diversified a lot, whether it's through communication of opportunities coming through social media, an investor buyer's agent that's out there, then they decide Hervey Bay's not their market, they're off into the next market and they're taking their clients there. Those type of things aren't staying 100% consistent compared to what it was when I was a BDM with Prestige Properties. So we have to be more adaptable to that, and knowing that we can't just bank on one key area when it comes to growth within the business.
I love that. I think that's great advice. And I totally agree with that you do have to, what is working now may not be working by the end of the year in terms of that lead gen journey. And I'll share a story. When I started our agency in Ipswich, I was with my ex-husband, and he was a sales agent, And he started getting people asking to manage properties, and I was working in the media at the time. So I came in, how hard could it be, right? Managing properties. Of course I can do that. No problem. Yeah. But we relied on a very heavy referral base to grow. So we grew very quickly, and we had some great relationships with builders and developers. Ipswich was the growth corridor of Southeast Queensland at that time. And we developed. But once that building started to slow down, probably about 4 years in, we had a great run. 4 years was fantastic. But I hadn't done any pre-planning on where our leads would come, what would happen. I hadn't even been a BDM because I just had been handed the properties. And in hindsight, I wish I had spoken to somebody like yourself or other business owners or BDMs, because I had to then scramble. And I probably had a period of 12 months where I was just testing, trying, learning how to be a BDM. How do I bring new? Yeah. So I think that's really valuable advice. You've got to be looking to the future, not just to what's happening now. But for somebody listening, and because you're 7 years in, just starting out, but and I have a lot of people in my audience who are looking to go out and start their own agencies. What would you recommend they start with to become, and the pieces that they would put together to build out to become an attraction agent?
I think what is really important and what the investors want to know is transparency and confidence and trust. Like, they're the key areas that they're really focused on. And it's really interesting. I caught up with another agent this morning and I was chatting with him, and we were talking about he's struggling a little bit in competing with other agents in his area when presenting information packages, and then he's not getting even a call back. And I said, what's actually written in that initial email that you're sending out? Is it just dancing around the fluff, or is there some real key things that someone's going to read that and go, I actually really need to talk to this agent to understand that better? And what I found very much so since starting Active Agents is a lot of investors are really wanting transparency. They want to know and see and be able to be a part of that process. So making sure that you're choosing the right software when you're setting up that is going to give you that transparency, that you can sell that on to the owners, that, hey, yes, you're paying this percentage, whatever it might be, but this is what I'm delivering to you. This is what the software can deliver. And not just saying, if you're a user of Inspection Express, oh yeah, we also use Inspection Express as well. That's great. We use Inspection Express because it has the virtual tours. We use that for your marketing, entry, exit, and routine inspection. So you get that full visual walkthrough transparency throughout the property experience with us. You just telling them that you use the software doesn't actually explain to them why they need that software, why they need to pay you the management fee to be able to have access to those opportunities so they can get that transparency. And also, we're in a situation just globally where we are experiencing financial difficulties, and not all of our investors are stupidly rich. We all know that. People think that's the case sometimes, as we know, but it's not the case. So having confidence and knowing how they're going to receive their rent, when they will be receiving it, if they don't receive the rent, what are the processes that are in place? And we have really strong KPIs for that with our rent arrears with our team, and they get rewarded when they have 0 rent arrears within their portfolio. So that I found is, again, another key talking point. So when you are setting up and establishing your business, look in your area, see what some of the things are that are frustrating and making it difficult and challenging for the investor and for the tenant. And when I first started Active Agents, the issues and what I launched with was having the virtual tours straight away. If you were a tenant that was out of area, you weren't required to physically view the property. You had the virtual tour there to review. And with confidence, you knew that's exactly what you're taking on, because as we all know, the virtual tour isn't over edited. It is a true version of the property at that time. We've not had any tenants pull out and turn up at the property and say, this is not what you presented to me. So that type of thing I found really powerful to be able to present and sell, because we didn't force them to have to do a paper-based application. They had the opportunity to apply online, look at the virtual tour, get approved, and know with confidence they can secure their role, whether it's medical, police, fire, and ambulance, and not have to go, I need to find someone to look through the property for me. I need to spend my time after work filling out this arcade paper-based application when I just want to fill it in once, be done, and can transfer it to other properties. So back then, that was our selling tool in 2019. And then over time, it's evolved in adding in our rent-arrears process, because obviously the businesses continue to get bigger, what that looks like, how we approach that, how we approach when the property's advertised, and the work that we're doing in the lead up. While your property's advertised and presenting applications, we're also already doing the entry report. So if you have a tenant that's looked through today and they want to move in tomorrow, even the next day, we're ready for it. We're not going to tell you, oh yeah, we probably need another 7 days and we'll find an opening for an entry report to be done. That's the stuff. That's the goal of what they're wanting. They're wanting to know it can be done at a really good time, and it's going to assist them with the growth of their investment.
I think that they are key things to becoming that attraction agent. They're how you stand out from the other people, other property managers, because everybody's a property manager in your local area. How do you stand out? How do you sell your processes and systems, really? And I think another thing you touch on that's really valuable there as well is your tenants. They are also an important part of you becoming an attraction agent as well. They are entrenched in your local communities. They're at the football clubs, at the soccer fields, at the hockey grounds, at the surf lifesaving clubs. They're talking to people in your local communities who are investors and who have family and friends who are investors. I think that's a piece that a lot of old school property managers in particular, they miss the piece that they're 50% of your equation.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, we've been very delighted to have some of our tenants come back to us where they have rented with us for, say, 12 to 18 months. They've purchased a home and they've been living in it over that maybe next 12 months, and then they've relocated for their work and they've come to us and said, would you like to rent out the property, please? We really loved our experience with you as a tenant and love the software, and we want to have access to that and the processes that you did. So we want that same experience. And a handful of them, I would probably say a high percentage, are the ones that were out of area that I didn't make it difficult for them to move here. So it's not a hard thing to do. It's just about rewiring ourselves to look at how we do approach our client base, being our landlord, tenant, and even tradespeople as well. And just because you might have done that 10 years ago doesn't mean it's relevant to what the pace of what we're doing now. How can we lead and be better in how we use our software to get the best exposure and opportunity for our overall client experience? And I think that's what sets apart quite a few of the agents in all areas. I know for me here in Hervey Bay, there's many of us, and there's certainly many other agents that have been here longer than I have. And I don't necessarily truly believe that people choose an individual or business just because they've had 1, 5, 10, 15, 20, 40 years experience. I do believe that they look at more than just the year's experience. So that's good value to add. But what have you gained over that time? Say if you've been in it like for 23 years, like myself, what are some of the lessons you've learned along the way? What are things that you know from that experience that's going to help them with their investment, that are part of your processes that will assist with the growth for them?
Amazing. And so tell me, as part of your growth plan, did you step up your involvement in your local community as part of that becoming that attraction agent? Do you think that is important? And what are some of the ways that people could get involved in their local community to get people talking about them and build that momentum for their business?
Look, I do. I wouldn't say, if I was honest, I'm 100% consistent with it the way I used to be in my 20s and early 30s. Having kids now has definitely diversified it, where when it comes to networking, I wouldn't say that I'm at every networking event now, but I do select the ones that I know that I can balance with my time and that I can certainly see are really important for me to be at. But the reason why I share that is because I've done that groundwork earlier on, which has assisted to have a benchmark to work with. So if you're someone that's starting out, you just have to be ready to hit the ground running and talk to every single person that you can to get your message out there of what you're wanting to achieve and how you're wanting to assist and make that difference. And networking is a really big key area of that. And whether that is going and attending different networking events, it might be through your local chamber or other groups that come together like BNI and those types of things. There was a time, as we know, during COVID where they weren't meeting and coming together. So it was really important to still be able to communicate with those that are out there that are wanting to either buy investments in your area or rent property within your area as well. And I think that helped diversify and change how the language was being presented through social media as well during that time, because agents had no choice but to refine what that looks like, because everyone was typically really only communicating online, as we knew, when it come to how we're promoting our business. So making sure that whether it is face-to-face, you're in front of someone, or if you're online and maybe there's been a question in one of your local community groups, I'm looking for a property manager, who do you recommend? If you're getting tagged in those posts, thank the person who is tagging you in that post. Acknowledge them. Because guess what? When you do that and you engage with them, they feel really good about knowing that you've seen that they've shared that they think that you're wonderful and they have loved working with you. So maybe they've moved back into their property, or they still love working with you, and they're putting that support there. I've had one, and that was last year, where they were trying to provide some negative thoughts and interesting feedback. And as we know, we have to, when we're responding to reviews, whether it's on Google or on Facebook Marketplace, we do have to think cleverly as much as we want to tell it how it is, use our wording well. But I responded back to that negative comment with confidence. And I've always found, whether, we have had a negative Google review as well, don't ignore it. Give the feedback back, because people will read how you have responded. And I know with the first negative Google review that we received, I responded back and provided the feedback. And within 48 hours, I had another new business meeting and I met with that client. And I'd said, how did you hear about active agents? She said, I read your Google reviews. And I thought, oh my God, like, you've seen that negative one. Damn it, like, it's our first negative review. No. And I said, oh, wow, you would have seen me recently. Like, I just straight out, like, you would have seen me recently got a negative review. And she said, I was actually really impressed with your response. And I'm very curious to understand that scenario better. So don't be afraid to respond back, whether it is negative. And if they are tagging you online and your area, and firstly, if you're not in your community groups, get in your community groups and be a member, because you want to be getting tagged in.
Yep.
If you need to build up that momentum, talk with your clients, see if there are any that would be open to doing that, encouraging them. Your team are likely to have profiles. Get them to tag the business in as well. Get that momentum happening. And then you can have your business profile as a member in there as well and be responding back. That engagement does work. I feel that investors are, in some cases, actually going to Marketplace first, and then they're looking at your Google reviews. And what a lot of them are doing is they're searching past posts and they're gauging it based on that. And I know I'm going into this quite in depth, but what I did recently—
That's great strategy. I'm loving that
I
strategy.
thought this is really interesting, because I had quite a few owners say, oh, I looked over past posts. So this has obviously been going on ever since we started Active Agents. And I thought, I'm going to go back, search them, and then you can actually search in the community groups and see all the past posts. And then I just did a quick sweep kind of copy of them and then threw them into ChatGPT and said, give me all the data as to how many times we've been tagged in posts, who's our closest competitors, and all those different things. And basically, I should have brought the data with me. That would have been much easier to explain. But we were sitting at 79% where we had been tagged in as the highest rated in that community group. You can go and put a question into ChatGPT and then ask who's the agent in the area. And that's always going to be dependent on what you have been searching. That's a whole nother conversation on an AI training session altogether. But when you can pull that data together that's visible there and put it in, and it can show you, it's really impressive to be able to see where you do genuinely sit based on where people have tagged you. And then you can see which ones are close, and then also shared like some of the negatives, how many of those were with certain agents and different things. And I found that quite powerful. So if I was able to quickly, easily do that, and I don't perceive myself to be highly tech savvy, imagine how many other investors are doing exactly the same thing, jumping the community groups, doing the search, saying, I want to look at all past posts of property manager, who's the best property manager. They're seeing all those posts, swiping all that data, putting in the chat GPT. There's be a lot of them out there doing it themselves.
Absolutely. So there's a couple that's a fantastic strategy. And I think anyone listening, go ahead and do that, or at least join all those local community groups. Yeah, absolutely. I think I've just lost my train of thought there for a second. You said so many. There was so many valuable things there, and I can't even remember but one of the things I was going to ask you, and I'll probably come back in 5 minutes and remember what I was going to ask you, was around how much value do you put on social media in terms of visibility and showing up and posting and sharing and commenting and liking and being part of your local community and also your own profiles. How much value do you put on that in terms of being an attraction agent?
Look, I would say it's up there with face-to-face networking, in my opinion, for my marketplace, absolutely, because we have a lot of out of area investors. So we don't necessarily always get the opportunity to meet them face to face. So how we are presented online, how we're communicating with those opportunities, what we're posting and sharing is really valuable for us with our client base. We have clients that buy property in the area that they've never come and seen it. They're just going based on what they've been presented from the sales agent, and they may not even had a virtual tour until they become one of our clients and they go, oh, I've just been able to see through the property. That happens. It's very common being in a regional area that isn't always easy to get to, but clearly a great opportunity to invest in. I put it up there just as high. I think that you have to have a really clear vision of how you are presenting in the digital space. I've started playing around with TikTok. I'm not going to say that I'm the leader of TikTok by any means when it comes to property management. I've reached out and talked to a few others of how they're doing it and watch other videos and things. And I find TikTok's a fun space, but interestingly, we've had properties that have leased because they've seen our listings that are going live and they've commented on that. We've sent back application links and stuff. And then we've had tenant supply that have not even gone to realestate.com. They've gone through TikTok, and some videos that have gone stupidly viral that I thought, geez, that I didn't put a lot of effort into that one, and others that still, great engagement. But if you're not in the online digital space, no one's going to know who you are in today's market. So I think it's just as valuable as face-to-face. I think you need to have a clear plan in both areas for your growth model.
Absolutely. And I did remember what I was going to say
Yes.
earlier, and that was around the negative reviews. I think a lot of investors now, if they see a perfect Google review profile, they're not believing that it's real, because there's too many people in our world, too many people to keep happy. Always, there's a lot of negotiations that go on. Somebody's always going to be unhappy in a lot of situations. I think a perfect Google review profile is not reality in property management space. And I think a lot of investors are savvy enough to realize that as well. So it's not a negative thing. And I've had a lot of people call me in tears and are really upset when they get their first bad Google review. I always say, go and have a look at my old business profile. There's a lot of negative reviews there, and some of it is our fault, and then some of it isn't our fault. But again, responding professionally.
That's exactly what you're saying. You learn from that experience. And I think that whether it is a client choosing not to work with you anymore, or you choose to not work with them anymore, or same with the team member, they go on a different path in life and it's not with active agents. I think that you still gain something from that experience. So I always try to hold on to, it's not great, but what can I gain from this review? Is there something that's there that maybe we could do this a bit differently, even if I might not agree with their opinion? What could we do differently in our processes that might reduce the need for someone to want to speak out this way in the future?
Absolutely. And I also want to just touch on tech. I know you said you embrace it in the right way. And there's so many shiny objects out there, so many different things. So if somebody what are the must-have tech stack that if somebody wanted to become an attraction agent, that is going to really give them the most bang for their buck at the moment?
So the products that we're using, or just why and that type of thing? Yeah. So we used Managed for our PM software. I don't mind which PM software businesses use. I think you just need to know it from start to finish so well that you can present that to your clients so they know the value of what they're going to experience from their end. For me, I feel really comfortable selling that product. I love that payments are in real time. I love that they get full transparency and we're held accountable to that. They can see when the next routine inspection is being booked in, when the lease renewal, when the rent review, they can see everything. I'm very okay with that. Puts pressure on me as a leader, puts pressure on our team to make sure that we are ticking those boxes and not falling behind. So very comfortable with that in our business model. And then that's a selling tool for us as well when it comes to securing that next client. In saying that, there are plenty of other great PM softwares out there. I don't think we've got the perfect one yet. I'd love for them to all combine minds together and make the super model, but we know that's not going to happen. So keep working with your provider that you do use, passing on that feedback so they can continue to grow. I'm a big believer in that. We've got to keep providing feedback to our software providers. My favorite software in the industry, and they know it as well, I tell them all the time, is Inspection Express. I think that they have done a smashing job in coming into our industry, and they are just always on point with their updates. I'm fortunate enough that I do get to provide feedback on the development of the software as well, and happy to be doing that because they are growing. at the pace of what we are experiencing in the industry to date. I think if you're a business that isn't using them for your inspection software and marketing, being the virtual tour aspect as well, you're absolutely mad. So I'd be reviewing that very quickly. We use Box Brownie for our photo editing and that as well. We're using Agent Box for our CRM. I'm trying to think of all the programs now. I think, would there be any other ones I should be thinking of?
No.
I keep it really simple.
Yep.
That's probably, yeah. I don't just take something on because I feel I need to. As an example, we've only just started to have multiple energy providers in our area. It hasn't been of benefit. It stopped, I think, around Sunshine Coast Noosa area there for a while. We've only ever had Ergon in this part of Queensland here. So it hasn't been of benefit for us to look at like Your Port or My Connect and those different things. But that's starting to become more of an opportunity now. So I've started reviewing those areas. So that will then become another add-on to the business. But I don't just add anything on because it looks pretty and we should just do it because everybody else is doing it. Yeah.
So I guess just wrapping up, like you've shared so much amazing value and you've got so many different talents and vast experiences. And I guess BDMs listening to this will find it really valuable as well. Is it different to becoming an attraction agent if you're a BDM or a business owner? Should BDMs be doing exactly what a business owner would be doing in the business? Because ultimately they're selling the property management business. Do you have some advice for BDMs around standing out as that agent, the go-to agent?
I was very fortunate when I was a full-time BDM that I had a principal that I was able to learn from, and she was very open to sharing with me how that business growth was working and profits and loss. And that's obviously inspired me to go through the stages I have in life to now starting active agents as well myself. But what I would say was very relevant in that experience is that my passion for Why Prestige Properties was the same of that business owner. So I think if you are working within a brand that you are not feeling that passion for, it's going to be very difficult for you to pass that on to your client and upsell that to your client. So if there are things that you're not passionate about within that business, it's best to talk to that business owner about it. And they might be things that can be fixed. They may be things that can't be fixed. There might be things that need to be looked at and reviewed in the team because you need to be able to sell with confidence that is going to be delivered on. There's no point in just going out and getting all these properties in, whether it's from a big developer, and if they're not being handled well in the business and they're all just flying out the other end, that's not going to build your profile. That's going to create a lot of negative conversation behind the scenes that you're not going to be aware of. And it's going to impact your name, which is your brand. And then you're obviously working within the brand as well. So I would definitely make sure that you are able to, with confidence, present yourself to your investor, whether it's through a Teams meeting, on a phone call or face-to-face, that they can see, wow, this person knows their stuff. So having confidence with legislation and being able to answer that question or say, that's a great question, this is what I know, let me get some more information for you, because they get that. They know that sometimes we don't have a bang on answer. We need to do a little more research because legislation keeps changing all the time. If you don't have those two fundamentals, passion and confidence in legislation, they're just not going to choose you. And you could wing it a bit before. When I was a full-time BDM, you could slither around legislation and all work out okay because it wasn't so detailed as what it is now. But then that's also now a benefit. Like I say to investors, it was so great when I was working within that business at the time that it was very difficult to give you a definitive answer. Now I can say, here are the minimal housing standards. This is what you need to do with your property. If you're not prepared to have your property at the standard, unfortunately, we can't manage it for you. Having that confidence as a business owner, that's easy for me to present. Having that confidence as a BDM is having those conversations with your business owner so that you can go in with confidence, know it with confidence of what you're presenting on the fees, know why you're delivering that fee and why it's important to retain that and why they should choose you based on that and what they're going to experience for that fee. Because I do truly believe that there are still investors out there prepared to pay. They just need to know and understand why. So don't fluff over what the key things are that are really powerful within your business. Know what they are and how you're going to help them ensure their property is maintained and that they're receiving the rent. That's what they want to know, and they want to see that transparently.
Absolutely. That's fantastic advice. And I'd love to jump on down the track and do a whole podcast episode around your BDM ethos as well.
Yeah, sure.
But let's dive in now. I'm conscious of time for you. I'll just wrap up the podcast with a question.
Okay.
What is it's not a tricky one. It's just, what is a personal development tool, resource, podcast, something that you would recommend to our audience?
Oh, wow. I'm very much into podcasts at the moment. I did quite a bit of reading more so before kids and when the kids were little, but I wouldn't say I'm as good at that now, but definitely with podcasts. So I've listened to so many different ones. Let me think. So I like Sam's podcast. I like your podcast as well.
Thank you. Thank you.
I tend to go between them to see who the speakers are and if on that particular day it's something that I want to listen to, or I'll track back to it. I might see a certain speaker and think, oh no, I need to work on this area in the business. So I'll go back to that one later on, which is a great thing with podcasts because they don't disappear. I like Ashley Goodchild's as well. There's a couple of girls in Victoria that have done Built for This. So they've got a property management background too that has been really good. I also listen to The $1 Million Agent with Tom Panos and John McGrath.
Yep.
Again, not all of them. I'll selectively go through and go, yep, I want to listen to that today. And then I'll also listen to Gavin Rubinstein's got a podcast too. And sometimes he has certain speakers that aren't even connected with real estate. Same with Matt Steinwade. When I feel like I'm thinking, I probably should think about my health again, he has some really good encouragement on things I should think about when it comes to diet and food and different things. So I guess it depends on what I feel I need to take in.
Yep.
For
I'm a bit the
myself.
same. Yep.
I wouldn't say there's one that I'm listening to religiously, but I have them all there and I scan between what I feel I need for that day. I've dropped the kids off and I've got my 10 to 15-minute drive into work and it starts from there.
Yep.
And then I've downloaded The Front, which is like a combination of all the news and media outlets.
Yep.
I'm not, again, very good at reading. My husband, Shane's really good at that. He'll jump online and he'll religiously read the newspapers from start to finish and has all those subscriptions. But they do, if that's something that you're interested in, they do a good 10 to 15-minute wrap up of the news across the country. Obviously, Iran's been part of that conversation point, and the Kyle and Jackie O show will one of the topics today. So
yep.
They've had some topics in the last couple of weeks that I've been keen to listen to. So then I've jumped on and listened to that. So yeah, I think giving yourself variety in education has been valuable to me, and I hope that's valuable to other listeners out there.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that variety is the spice of life or something they say. And I'm a bit the same as you. I depending on how I feel, I usually sauna most mornings and I'll sit in the sauna and go. Sometimes I just leave it up to the universe to see what I need to
just scroll and see where it is.
Just scroll and then press play. But yeah, it's good. And there's so much great content out there online as well. So there's no excuses for not doing personal development these days. And finally, how can anyone reach out and connect with you further?
Yeah, with the BDM Academy side, I'm obviously not invested and focused on that full time like I was prior to starting Active Agents, but we do still have the training aspect there. We're more so probably coaching remotely at this stage, but for me, the travel side was becoming quite a bit to navigate both and a family. I kept that there because I still find from time to time there are people that are wanting that support, which has been really fun to do. And as when you're speaking with people, you always gain something, whether it's someone that I'm training or just a general conversation of an idea as well. So I like to keep that at hand. Otherwise, through Active Agents, so on our website, it has all my contact details on there as well. And you can email me direct there, and happy to answer any questions that anyone may have, or if they're experiencing something that's a challenge within their business. I know we've really talked about BDM today, and obviously now with Active Agents, I've had that real exposure to proper business ownership. I'm hearing all your pain. I'm feeling it with you. So don't be afraid to reach out, because I think that it is a mental game when it comes to running a business, and there are days that are tougher than others, but then you get to the next day and you get the great rewards again. And that's why we keep doing it. That's why you're still participating in the industry while you've sold your business. You're still a part of it because there's something about property management that has just got you, and it's an amazing space to be in. Yeah, I'm open to all questions. Don't be afraid. If I don't know the answer, I'll tell you and I'll find an answer for you. I can't handle a problem without a solution.
I have a feeling your inbox is going to be flooded, so brace yourself.
Okay.
Thank you so much for joining me, Tara.
You're welcome.
Can I ask you a quick favour before you leave this episode? Now, we all know how important reviews are for businesses these days, and mine is no different. If you could spare just a minute to follow, rate and review this podcast, it would mean a lot to me. In fact, what would get me super excited is if you share this podcast with someone in the industry who you think might need to hear some of the episodes right now. And if you'd like to find out more about working with me or any of the products I have to help you start, grow, or scale your property management business, head to my website, thatpropertymum.com.au, or check out the links in the show notes.